Hello. The resource endowment associated with land makes it attractive for human settlement, but absence of that makes such land uninhabitable. Good evening and welcome to Weekend File. Tonight we shall be talking about desertification. And here we go. The northern part of Nigeria is endowed with a large expanse of arable land that has over the years proved a vital resource for agriculture and other economic activities. But desertification, advancing at the rate of 6.0% every year, is affecting many land areas. Records show that Nigeria loses about 350,000 hectares of land annually to desert encroachment, leading to demographic displacement in villages across 11 states in the northern part of the country, some of which include Adamawa, Borno, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Yobe, Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Gombe, and Bauchi states. This sort of environmental catastrophe inevitably results in big changes in the activities and behavior of the humans dependent upon the affected areas. The threat of desertification is assuming frightening dimension, especially as it affects the nation's arable landmass, invariably becoming a source of threat to food production. This has become a key issue as many livelihoods in Nigeria are closely linked to the productivity of the land, which also defines its capacity for climate mitigation and adaptation. The 2017 global observance of the World Day to Combat Desertification took place in June 15 to be precise, and focused on ways to explore knowledge platforms to restore degraded lands. And so tonight, we will examine the cause of desertification, preventive and remedial measures that can possibly lead to restoration of already desertificated lands across the northern part of Nigeria. Join us on this crucial mission to tinker on how to tackle the menace of desertification only on Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. My name is Kirian Umayo. Welcome to your weekend companion on the largest TV network in Africa. Here, the news is first. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has appointed a 7-man judicial commission headed by Justice Biobele Georgeville of the Court of Appeal to review compliance of the Nigerian Armed Forces with human rights obligations and rules of engagement, especially in local conflict and insurgency situations. Momso Demiandati reports.
The Commission is empowered to review extant rules of engagement applicable in the Nigerian Armed Forces and the extent of compliance thereto. It is also empowered to investigate alleged acts of violation by Nigerian security agencies of international humanitarian and human rights law under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, Geneva Conventions Acts, African Charter in Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement Acts, and other relevant laws. The Commission equally has a mandate to investigate factors that might be militating against a speedy resolution of local conflicts and insurgencies, and also advise on means of preventing violations of international humanitarian and human rights law in conflict situations. The Commission is to be chaired by Justice Biobele Georgeville. The Commission is expected to commence work immediately and submit its report within 90 days. Momso Demiandati, NTA News.
Now to another story. Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Army Staff rather, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai has commended the level of synergy between Army troops and police personnel operating in Gaidam and Kanama, Yobe State. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has that report.
In the words of Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, seeing is believing, hence the need for regular surprise visits and review of operational strategies. The visit is also in line with the recent renewed call for service chiefs to swiftly end the activities of the Boko Haram terrorist group to enhance the ongoing reconstruction and resettlement of the displaced in the northeast. At Gaydam, one of the initial breeding ground for the insurgents, now 159 Battalion, the Chief of Army Staff enjoined troops to be vigilant and dominate their areas of responsibility to avoid possible regrouping of the insurgents now in disarray.
Congratulate the policemen, the mobile policemen that are operating with you. This is to show a very good synergy, and the interagency cooperation should be further cultivated across the theater and indeed across the country.
With Gaydam's proximity to Nigeria and Niger's border, he stressed the need for regular patrol and clearance of the remnant of the criminals and assured troops of improved welfare at the various theater of operation and barracks. From Gaydam in Yobe State, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
And more on security matters, Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar has re-emphasized his commitment on personnel welfare and training for effective discharge of their duties towards protecting the nation's territorial integrity. The Chief of Air Staff said this at a walk and jog exercise to exhibit combat readiness of the Air Force. Almajiri Bello reports.
The vision of the Air Force is to have a professional and formidable force that is technologically inclined to international best practices. This is why Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar with airmen and women defy the early morning showers to ensure the personnel are not only sound in mind but in body.
With what we have inducted in the fight against terrorism, the helicopter gunships, and from what the 12 aircraft we have reactivated to add to the fight, and the number of pilots we have trained, as well as the number of airmen we have recruited, I believe that we are on track to making this country a better place.
He reiterated the commitment of the Air Force to build a force that will be one to reckon with in Abuja. Almajiri, Bello, NTA News.
Flooding has manifested in some places around the country, which could also be triggered by heavy rainfall, blockage of drainage systems and poor planning. This is contained in a statement by the Director General of the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, Moses Beckley, following a gradual build-up in the flow of major rivers in the country. Musbao Dan Wahab reports.
The rains intensify, so are the warnings. The earlier warnings in the annual flood outlook 2017 by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, and Federal Ministry of Water Resources resonate. Update from the agency says that so far 16 states covering over 34 local government areas have been affected by current flood situations. Records from NISA's monitoring stations at critical locations on River Niger have shown that there is gradual fluctuations both in the flow and height of the rivers at the measuring points, but the excess water can be accommodated by both the Kenji and Jeba dams along the Niger River axis. Similarly, at the agency's monitoring stations on River Benue, the water level has fairly increased at Wuroboki, Adamawa State, Ibi, Taraba State, and Makudi, Benue State, with fluctuations being noticed, but no risk of severe river flooding at the moment. At the confluence in Lokoja, the water level is presently at 5.80 meters, which is quite below the recorded level of 10.61 at this time in 2012. The agency, however, warns that coastal flooding resulting from sea rise and storm surges could take place in coastal areas. People living within the river banks and floodplains of rivers within the country are advised to take necessary precautions by leaving for safer places, while people should also adhere strictly to town planning guidelines and environmental laws. In Abuja, Musbao Dan Wahab, NTA News.
The Council for the Regulation of Engineering Practice in Nigeria, COREN, in addition to its regulatory function, creates avenues for members to collectively take far-reaching decisions to address the problems of engineering profession in Nigeria. And one of such platforms is COREN Assembly, which this year is dedicated to entrepreneurship and manufacturing in Nigeria, challenges and opportunities for a better future. Engineering projects such as construction, designing and building require high level of research and technical know-how for the desired objective to be achieved. President of COREN, Kashimali, while addressing science correspondents on this year's COREN Assembly, noted that regular interaction among members of the engineering family would lead to efficient engineering practice and education. He affirmed the ingenuity of Nigerian engineers, but decried slow pace of the actualization of practical realities of the profession, which is part of issues for discuss at the Assembly.
Capacity to market yourself is critical to success of any venture. It's not enough to have the knowledge. If you don't have the tools for marketing that knowledge, you may well keep it in an incubator.
He says Nigerian engineers are claimed globally as highly intellectual and would be admitted into the club of 20 best engineering nations by 2018. Now, the federal government says it will reposition the Calabar Free Trade Zone to attract more investment and boost industrialization. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Nalama, said this during a two-day tour of projects at the Calabar Free Trade Zone. Uduak Etim reports.
The minister, who expressed satisfaction with the level of work done at the site of the General Electric multimodal facility and other projects at the zone, commended the company's vision and desire to contribute positively to the growth of Nigerian economy. He said federal government will continue to work with the private sector for industrialization, economic growth and job creation.
To make the necessary investment in infrastructure and in attracting the right investors to make this a world-class zone, which, as you know, is part of our larger economic recovery and growth strategy and industrialization strategy.
Investors at the zone emphasized the need for effective partnership with the federal government for sustainable growth and called for immediate intervention over the dredging of the Calabar Channel, as non-dredging of the channel has impeded port operations.
Encouraging government to please, this is a beautiful place, this is a good investment. Government should revitalize and revamp this place. This place is not in the best position. No lights, there are a lot of things that are not here. So government should do that, and I'm sure they will make a lot of money and create more jobs.
In Calabar, Uduak Etim, NTA News.
The inability of sector participants to collate and operate integrated database over the years impeded investments in the oil and gas sector. To this end, innovative efforts are on ground to address this with a view to growing Nigerian content sustainability. The Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Simbi Wabole, said this at the Bolt's workshop in Lagos. Annie Daniels has that report.
Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Simbi Wambote, testified that the Nigerian content has grown from a paltry 5% value retention in 2010 to 26% in 2017. To ensure sustainable development of the oil and gas industry, Wambote says oil and gas industry stakeholders are expected to subscribe to the Nigerian oil and gas industry content database, NOGIC JQS.
We have tremendously improved the portal such that we will have seamless processes established in our system to do business.
And in case anybody, falsifies, any item that has to do with the process, the system will not lie because it will definitely be captured in the audit trail.
The theme of the stakeholders workshop is optimizing the functionalities of the NOGIC JQS for ease of doing business with NCDMB. The organization's 10-year goals were rolled out.
We want to increase the number of employments that we generate to 300,000. We want to be able to retain 40 billion out of the 20 billion annual expenditure within the oil and gas industry in country.
The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board was established by Logic Development Act in 2010. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
In line with the federal government's commitment to increasing access to higher education by providing essential infrastructure for teaching and learning, the Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Abdullahi Bafa, has inaugurated some of the 2012-2013 TET Fund projects at the Akanu Ibiam Federal Polytechnic, Owana in Afibo. Blessing Anyango was there for us.
By the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration for improved teaching and learning, increased enrollment and accreditation of courses through TET Fund projects is beginning to yield fruits. The Executive Secretary, TET Fund, Abdullahi Bafa, confirmed this while commissioning some TET Fund projects in Akanu Ibiam Federal Polytechnic, Wana. He expressed delight at the work done.
We have commissioned 4 projects that were put in place arising from allocation from 2012, 2013 up to 2014.
Director Dr. Obunaya Ibe Enwo, while conducting the officials round TET Fund projects, which includes water treatment laboratory, lecture halls, and the livestock farm, called for prompt interventions, especially in areas that will make the students self-reliant.
The entrepreneurship component of our training, our students, as they are graduating, acquire academic knowledge, they will also acquire skills that will help them, enable them to become self-employed.
Some of the board members, including the NTA Executive Director Administration and Training, Dr. Steve Ebo, agreed that the project is needful and is capable of turning the future of the educational sector.
Will continue to demand more.
In Abakaliki, Blessing Anyang, NTA News.
Nigerians have been advised to keep alive the nation's forebearers' vision of unity and progress through promotion of mutual relationships. This was the thrust of the message of the Nigerian Television Authority to the 2017 Planning Committee of the FRCN, NTA, and the Voice of Nigeria Carol of 9 Lessons. Glory Ekanem reports.
A teaser from the 2016 Christmas Carol. Ahead of this year's celebration, a committee is being inaugurated by the Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, represented by the Executive Director, Administration and Training, Steve Egbo. He enjoined the team to propagate the message of patriotism, peaceful coexistence, and the fear of God.
As far as I'm concerned, religion shouldn't be an issue. Those who use religion as an issue are those who are deliberately creating a disconnect within the body politic. They are wrong.
Members of the committee are drawn from the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Voice of Nigeria, and the Nigerian Television Authority, the host for this year's Carol of 9 Lessons.
There should be unity of purpose within the Christendom.
Let us preach reconciliation. Let us preach love.
The planning committee, as inaugurated, will find the wisdom, will get the wisdom to carry through and to present a beautiful showpiece again in 2017.
It is hoped that the 2017 service of 9 Lessons and Carols will help to foster peaceful coexistence amongst the nation's ethnic groups. In Abuja, Glory Ekanem, NTA News.
In the next few weeks, people who relish the true and authentic Nigerian arts, craft and culture will have fulfilling moments at the 2017 African Arts and Craft Expo in Abuja. Elizabeth Banu reports on how the Director General of Nigerian National Council for Arts and Culture, Otumba Olusegun Ronshewe, is rolling out the package.
Investment in Nigeria's creative industry is a focal point for economic diversification. With commitment by government and its partners as well as endowments in culture, Nigeria is fast becoming a preferred destination and a hub for culture, arts, cuisine and tourism. The Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture, Otumba Olusegun Ronshawe, says the African Arts and Craft Expo is not just an attraction to Nigeria's rich culture, but also a sure way of attracting investment for economic prosperity.
Someday this oil will finish. But before it finishes, we want to really prove to the whole nation that culture can actually give us what we need.
To walk the talk, landscaping and beautification of the arena is progressing. Specialized collapsible pavilions will be used, all in an effort to elevate the exposition to international standard. This year's expo will add value to participants and visitors as they will benefit from some free services. It will open on the 27th of August and officially on the 5th of September. In Abuja, I am Elizabeth Banu, NTA News.
Youth groups from the north have resolved to partner the federal government and stakeholders in bringing positive reforms to the Almajiri school system. Ado Adamu also reports.
It is time for change, the youth emphasize, as the issues of changing the system take center stage again among stakeholders. They give unique stories of the Almajiri situation in the north. The youths are, however, united in their resolve to finding a lasting solution.
To actually come together, synergize and make the impact stronger and the outcome better.
And hopefully things are really going to get better for the Almajiris in Nigeria.
The convener is optimistic about finding solutions.
We need to synergize efforts. We need to be serious about ending and reforming the Almajiri system. We need to take back the future of our children, these children that are on the streets. We need to protect their rights.
With over 10 million Almajiris on the street, the speaker said the region is missing out on vast opportunities for human development. In Abuja, Ado Adamu also, NTA News.
Traditional rulers in the country have been tasked to complement government efforts towards ensuring peace and unity in the country. Governor Umaru Tanko Almakora said this in Kefi, the installation and presentation of first-class staff of office to the 15th Emir of Kefi, Alhaji Shehu Chindo Yamusa III. Joshua Ojito completes this story.
The 15th Emir of Kefi in Nasarawa State, Alhaji Shehu Chindo Yamusa III, succeeded his late father, Alhaji Muhammadu Chindo Yamusa II, on 14th of December 2015. At the well-attended event, Governor Umaru Tanko Almakura said traditional rulers must rise up and engage their subjects in robust consultations and dialogue on the need to coexist peacefully with one another.
Realizing the strategic position of our royal fathers, we have since incorporated the traditional institution into the machinery of governance in Nasarawa State by engaging them in the affairs of government at all levels in the state. This synergy has contributed immensely towards the sustenance of peace, tranquility, and harmonious coexistence amongst the diverse people of Nasarawa State.
And inshallah, I shall dedicate my entire life to the service of Kefi Emirate. In particular, Nasarawa State and Nigeria in general. I am not unaware that he to whom much is given, much is expected.
He notes that the strength of the nation lies in its diversity, and any call for secession is not in the best interest of Nigeria. From Kefi, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
You can watch this news live online via the NTA mobile app, which you can download on your Android device at the Google Play Store or at the Apple Store if you use devices with iOS. You're watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. Now to tonight's issue. Desertification is a huge problem that needs to be addressed accordingly. Experts say research and advancement in technology may be needed to prevent it from happening as a global ecological and environmental phenomenon known to be the driver of human migration and population shifts. The huge issue here is the fact that there are large expanses of land in Nigeria that are going going through desertification, and if nothing is done to prevent the persistent degradation of lands and fragile ecosystem resulting from man-made activities and variations in climate, the long-term effect could be devastating. The situation report on the affected areas by our correspondents will put the starting block in place for our deliberation on the issue tonight. And that's next. Stay with us.
Change does not just happen. You and I and all of us must appreciate that we all have our part to play if we want to bring change about. We must change our lawless habits, our attitude to public office, and public trust. We must change our unruly behavior in schools, hospitals, marketplaces, motor parks, on the roads, in homes and offices. To bring about change, we must change ourselves by being law-abiding citizens.
This is what a normal data day looks like. You on your lane, minding your own business. La 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 la. Suddenly, Glow decides to surprise you. Free 200 megabytes, and wow, your parole don't change. This means you begin to enjoy more uploads and more Snapchatting, more streaming, more gaming. Look at you, buzzing around town, having the time of your life.
Free Data Day is here for all Glow subscribers. Get 200 MB free data for a day and change your parole. Use 100 MB plus 150 naira on voice calls or just 250 naira on voice calls in the preceding week to enjoy. Watch out for an SMS alert for details. The largest data network, Glow, grandmasters of data. Friday, 11th August is Free Data Day nationwide. Get 200 MB free data and make something happen.
Hey, now who they here? My name now Mr. Shortcut. I dey mind my money. Now cheap one, I dey buy. Standard, we sign. Now to buy cheap one. Hey, now one kind cable for my yard. A cheap building material where we take build my office. I think say I dey save money. Office building collapse and fire burn my house.
You don't see what happened to Mr. Shortcut? Well, Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, don't ready for action and say enough of pain, loss and wastage. And if you see product where no dey correct, call the SON office when near you or SON help desk. Standards Organization of Nigeria, improving life through standards.
Now waiting be this. Smart gun over here don't switch again. Everybody want make I put them on top. You remember AJ Smart Connect me when I recharge 100 naira, then go give me 800 naira. You don't upgrade now. Every end of the month, then go give me back all my recharge who I don't recharge. As that time bonus. From this one, no, we just jara. That now over jara back to sender.
Buy an Airtel SIM and get back all your recharges as data bonus by month end on Smart Connect.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
We want to buy Indomie noodles. 4 packs, please.
Yo.
This is not my Indomie. Please, sir, if it's not Indomie, don't call it Indomie.
Sir, the taste is the difference. The difference is in the taste. That's why my brothers, my mommy, my daddy, and I all enjoy admission so very delicious Indomie noodles. The difference is the taste.
Taste is the difference. Yes, difference is in the taste. Nothing tastes like my Indomie.
Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is working to ensure access to safe, good quality essential medicines with the World Health Organization pre-qualification of made in Nigeria pharmaceutical products, stiffer penalties for fake drug offenders with a review of NAFDAC laws, national, regional, and international collaborations, cutting-edge technologies, including the mobile authentication service.
NAFDAC as an agency is indeed doing so much to protect the health of our nation. I urge everyone to support NAFDAC in ridding the country of fake drugs and unwholesome products.
Let us support NAFDAC to win the war against fake drugs and other unwholesome regulated products. NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Oh, and she does it. Oh, she looks so terrific. Second goal for Canada. One last chance to launch a massive one. Oh my goodness me! Absolutely beautiful. That's another championship record. All-star once again in the throws. But Bolt's already smiling. Dare we ever doubt him? 19.56. Usain Bolt is just unstoppable.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us up till this moment on Weekend File. Now, we have been told earlier on that desertification emerges due to rampant and unchecked depletion of natural resources as well as climate change. It is a significant global ecological and environmental problem. Aisha Bello now tells us of more on the phenomenon and efforts at checking the menace.
Some decades ago, this expanse of land on the northern fringes of Nigeria was a flourishing savanna full of human activities. Now it is a shadow of its former self, barren and deserted, a fallout of desertification. 11 states in northern Nigeria are faced with the problem of desertification and other forms of environmental degradation. Put together, they account for 43% of the total land area of Nigeria, with a population of 40 million people. Advancing sand dunes of the far northeast to the hard and rocky terrain of the northwest, the land has lost its nutrients and can no longer support plant life. About 360,000 hectares of Nigeria's land mass is lost to the desert annually.
In deforestation, northern Nigeria is losing over $750 million. And then in desertification, we are losing $7 billion annually.
Migration by pastoralists from the north in search of greener pastures is inevitable. Such movement has always been associated with conflicts.
That's why you find the central zone is the most populated area now of Nigeria, because migration. We've got about 4 million environmental refugees in Nigeria, refugees in their own country. They are the IDPs.
Water is something that is also scarce in these areas. Worried by the ravaging effects of desertification and drought on the people of the Sahel region, Nigeria and other countries in this region of Africa have been making concerted efforts over the years to tackle these problems by developing strategies that address these peculiarities. This gave rise to the concept of the Great Green Wall of the Sahel and Sahara Initiative. It was proposed by Nigeria in 2005 and adopted by the African Union in 2007 as a Pan-African agenda that seeks to tackle the environmental scourge in a holistic manner. In furtherance of this drive by the government of Nigeria to tackle the problem, a Great Green Wall Agency was established in line with the AU Great Green Wall Convention, of which Nigeria is a signatory. The implementation of the Great Green Wall project commenced in 2013 with the identification of 92 communities in 46 local government areas in the affected states. 46 other communities have been added to this, bringing the number to 138. Measures taken by the Great Green Wall Agency to achieve its goal of restoring the livelihood of the people in desert areas include establishment of shelter belts stretching from Kebbi to Borno State, promotion of dry land agricultural technology, provision of water and other social infrastructure. Others include provision of alternative sources of energy as well as development of grazing reserve. Countries like Senegal, Chad and Mauritania commenced implementation of the Great Green Wall Initiative earlier than Nigeria and have made substantial progress in restoring degraded land. In Nigeria, 10 billion naira was approved by the previous administration, coupled with contributions from donor agencies. Experts are of the opinion that stronger partnerships, proper monitoring, community involvement and sensitization are key to realizing the goals of the Great Green Wall Initiative in Nigeria. Aisha Bello Mustafa, NTA News.
Thank you, Aisha, for that comprehensive analysis. Now, from Kebbi State, stakeholders share government's vision of the Great Green Wall working for people and the environment if implementation is sustained. However, to achieve this goal, Nora Tanko Wakili says that adequate funding is required to drive the initiative.
Akain Adio local government area of Kebbi State is the entry point of the Great Green Wall to Nigeria, and therefore houses the first shelter belt and 2 orchards under the program. It was also at the community the program was flagged up in 2014, while Dole Kaina, Tukurwa and Tungar Hassan in the local government areas host other shelter belts. Nabula, the program is, according to some of the stakeholders, it suffered setback due to system neglect.
There is no any impact as at present because the project was not taken completely. It was just started and it came to a stop.
So everything really started in full bloom. But unfortunately with the change in the government and with the change, with the metamorphosis that has taken place from an ordinary program to an agency, things changed.
The stakeholders therefore advocated for a collective approach by all concerned towards ensuring the program is set on the right track concerning its benefit.
Let it be taken completely, complete aspect of it.
Great Green Wall, as far as I'm concerned, is financially constrained.
Some of the forest guards who spoke to Weekend File attributed the situation to their disengagement by the federal government for over 1 year now, as the facilities are left with no one to look after them. In Birnin Kebbi, Nura Tanko Wakili.
All right, the governments of Borno and Yobe states are still determined on the implementation of the Great Green Wall project, despite the setback in their socio-economic programs as a result of insurgency. Haman Jabani reports that with the gradual restoration of peace in the area, the Green Wall initiative is also picking up.
Borno and Yobe states are among the 12 frontline states in the implementation of Great Green Wall project, where drought, land degradation and desertification have for years been posing serious challenges, particularly on the agricultural sector and the environment. Although some communities in the 2 states have keyed into the Great Green Wall project, as at the time of its inception, it suffered great setback as a result of insurgency, although still on course. The Great Green Wall desk officer in Yobe State, Garba Tahir, however, said the communities are still benefiting from the boreholes drilled for that purposes. 12 out of the 27 local government areas in northern Borno are known to be worst hit by desertification, which continuously lead to losing tens of thousands of hectares of farmlands, with indiscriminate falling of trees for charcoal as a main source of energy for cooking, and non-adherence to proper implementation of Great Green Wall project, the land degradation continues. However, with the restoration of peace to the 2 states, Borno State government has earlier this year as a way of tackling environmental impact of desertification and land degradation.
It is not possible for our men
to go into the hinterland that is that affected areas, especially the northern part of Borno, which is not possible for us to go. So in those areas, most of these plantation, forestry plantations and woodlock plantation has been cut off.
In Yobe State, which has the largest number of desert area in Nigeria and the longest distance of 323 kilometers of shelter bed to be covered among the Great Green Wall Project participating states in Nigeria, Yunusa Suleiman reports that despite major challenges as harsh weather, difficult terrain, low rainfall, and Boko Haram attack in parts of Gaidam and Yunusufari local government areas that slowed down the pace of execution, the workshop of Great Green Wall Skill Acquisition Center is still in place in Yunusufari, though yet to be equipped. Towards sustaining the Great Green Wall project in mitigating desertification and general land degradation in Yobe State, planting of trees is currently ongoing in 4 communities along the corridor in the state. In Maiduguri, Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
Thank you, Hammond. And just to let you know that the situation is the same in most of the affected states in the northern part of Nigeria. And up ahead on Weekend File is the conversation segment on desertification with an environmental expert. Don't go away. Well, we do apologize for the absence of audio in those commercials. And you're still watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. For further insight into the topical issue for tonight, I now welcome the Director General of the Great Green Wall Project in Nigeria, Guni Ahmed. So we are glad to have you join us tonight on Weekend File.
Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, let me begin by asking you to tell our viewers what actually brings about desertification. Some talk about overgrazing, some talk about lack of knowledge for effective use of farmland, and of course the stripping of the land of its nutrients. But in Nigeria, for instance, what are the basic causes of desertification?
Thank you, Kieran. Basically, there are 2 main issues that brings about drought and desertification. One is human factor, and then the second is natural phenomenon instigated recently by the climate change. These are the major issues affecting bringing in the desertification. Human factor, rightly said, the people living in this area are so much attached to the natural environment. Their livelihood is totally attached to that. This is why they farm, the grazing, all sort of life in this area. I mean, their source of energy and so on and so forth is all from this fragile environment. That is one of the major causes of desertification.
Now, Great Green Wall Project appears to be the only known measure now that we can put in place to see how we can restore the lost vast of arable land in those parts of the country. So how has it been running that agency?
The agency has been put in place now. The law establishing the agency came about in 2015. The program started in 2013, as you said in the your newscast. This is where we are at the moment, but to give a little background to the issue of how Great Green Wall all came about, or the issue of desertification. In fact, the global concern on desertification came about in earnest in 1977, when the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, on Environment, came about sometimes in Kenya. That was followed by a plan of action, and a convention was developed during the Rio Conference in 1992. This was adopted by the General United Nations and signed into law. So the convention was signed in 1994. Nigeria also came on board in 1997. That is how the focus on desertification started globally. Now coming home, Nigeria, looking at this problem, taking into account the major ecological problem that happened in 1970s, where there was a serious drought and so, came about with this program of Arizona Afforestation Program, that is during the Obasanjo's regime. This was followed sometimes in the 1980s by the Green Revolution, and eventually the World Bank project also came on board. Having seen all these efforts not measuring the desired expectation because of the enormous problem of desertification.
All right, sir. Yeah. Let us pause here, actually, because we want to show Nigerians an exciting moment all the way from London. The man Usain Bolt, of course, we know him, the fastest man in the world today, and he's doing his final race there in London. Where the race is just about to kickstart. We're going to see this fastest man do his thing for the final time in IAAF organized event in London.
The final of the men's 100 meters. Usain Bolt's last global final for athletics retirement on an individual level. Still the relays to come, but this is his chance to sign off in style. Bolt in 4, Coleman in 4. Coleman 994, and only bronze for Bolt, albeit in a joint season's best of 995 for him. It's not the fairy tale ending that Bolt wanted. Gatlin is